Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Soaring Through Chaos. And the reason we do it is because we are in the middle of the pandemic. And every day, something or the other is changing. Every day, there's some concern about health. There's a vaccine, and then there's no vaccine. And there are jobs and no jobs. And there's all this finger pointing that comes with it. But amid all this craziness, I find that there are people who bring sanity. There are people who build communities. And I think each one of us could build communities, could find our calling during these challenging times, if only we could breathe deeply. One of the people I met during the pandemic is my friend here, Yogesh. Yogesh,
I
please
guess.
tell us about you. We met thanks to MICA, the Mudra Institute of Communications, where both of us are visiting faculty. Tell us about your life a little bit, sir.
Yes. So I know I come from a typical Indian family who believed that, and in those days we didn't have too many choices. So engineering or medical was the only choice, and I chose engineering. And then the logical conclusion was being an MBA. However, after that, I realized that I mean, you can't box yourself in a typical way. And there was this thing that I like, the road less taken. There's a poem, the road less taken. I was like, how would it be to travel through that road rather than taking the road often traveled? So I broke off from the normal and I went to the US to do my second MBA, which was ridiculed upon as like, you need two MBAs to prove yourself. I said, no, it's just to explore something new. So I went to the US to do my second MBA in international business. The first one was in marketing from one of the prestigious institutes called Jamnalal Bajaj. And then I went to the US. I was in Iowa of all the places. And even today, when I introduce myself to Americans, like I was in Iowa and they
Me too,
take a
me too,
stop.
at different
Yeah,
times.
yeah. They take a pause and then they say, Iowa? I mean, what the hell were you doing there? So I went to Iowa to do my international business, but there it, I mean, actually it opened up to a whole plethora of opportunities to opening up my mind to looking at things with a different perspective, because I was with people from like 50 odd countries. So on one day I would be doing a powwow with the Indian Americans. On the other day, I would be doing salsa with the Latin Americans, or with some Europeans. So it was a whole different world altogether. It was a microcosm of the globe, I must say, of humanity, which flows there. Of course, it's just for 2 years, but in that 2 years, it kind of made a global man out of me. So I picked up Latin dancing there. I picked up speaking Spanish there. And in the 1 year that followed, where you can live in the US, I experimented with both. So I was teaching like Latin dancing in a good studio there. And so it made me realize that management is not about just managing the few business prospects. Its management is all about managing your life with the scarcest of the resources and making the most out of it. And then I came back to India. Ever since then, I was working with some of the best corporates. Like I was the marketing head for L'Oreal. I was with Ogilvy. Then I moved on to media and entertainment, where again, some of the biggest and best companies, multinational again. Like I was with Reliance, media and entertainment in movies. I was with Zoom, which is a part of Times of India Group. And then finally, I was the Asia Pacific head for Z Living, which is part of the Z Group. In between that, I had a stint of entrepreneurship where I used to represent Indian movies for the international market, taking them to different festivals, different markets. And there I built a whole network of people across the globe, but mostly from US, Europe, and Latin America. So in that way, I think life and my travel taught me much more than those two MBAs could teach. And things became much more clear. It became much more obvious that there is a higher purpose to what I'm doing. And hence I started a venture. I call myself an entertainer because I use my dancing for training purposes, because people used to who have danced or learned dancing from me have always said, "Oh, you make dance feel so simple, and you make us so happy. We are so happy while dancing. We have never danced in our life. We always wanted to dance, and we have two left feet." So I started calling my workshops two left feet, and then introduced dancing. So I said, why only restrict to dancing? People are happy doing things they love, which could be anything from dancing to arts to to acting and other things. So I started this venture called as the Happyness Factory, which which is basically creative workshops in dance, art, and yoga, which I believe is a panacea for any kind of problems that you might have in life. Because at the end of the day, even if you have physical ailments, they are psychosomatic. They are linked to your feelings. So if you do what you love, you are the happiest. So we started the Happyness Factory, and the logical conclusion was, if you eat what you love and which is healthy, you will be again happy. So the next thing is building up a superfoods company which deals with moringa and turmeric. So now I'm into the Happyness Factory as well as Yosan Foods. And on and beyond that, I do teach dancing. I do go and teach in different business schools. And more importantly, I'm a citizen of the world. I connect with people wherever I go. I've traveled to about 50 odd countries and 6 continents, and I hope to get into Antarctica soon. So wherever I go, I make sure that I'm able to dance. And with that comes some local language singing and music. So life is so much fun if you explore the people and the places and the culture that you are a part of the world of. So yeah, this is in short my life. And when I talk about this to people, the first thing that comes is that, hey, we envy you, wish we could lead your life. Yes, every person can do that, but that involves some sacrifices, some focus on what you want and what you are willing to give off in order to get what you want. And I believe that this is the track that I've chosen, and I live it up to that. So yeah, I'm glad to say that in spite of the pandemic today, I'm quite happy on that front.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's so amazing, Yogesh, that you and I have so much in common, including our mother tongue Konkani and parents who grew up in Karnataka. And then we meet at this age after all the years of doing life differently, separately around the world. Finally, a common friend, another faculty member at MICA connects us together. What a synchronicity during the pandemic. What my question to you is, during the pandemic, has your life changed, or are you still swimming through and dancing through everything, or with all the restrictions that have come into place, has your life changed in any way?
I think my life has changed a lot during the pandemic, but however, towards the better. And yes, I am swimming with the tide, but I am, like I said, I'm making the most of it. So for the first 3 months, when India had a absolute lockdown, and I had the chance to live with my parents, and I've not been living with them for quite some time, and understand the complexities of their life. They are old now, like they are 74 and 78. So I understood them better. They understood me. We had this whole thing of working together on household things. And every day in the evening, I was lucky enough to live in a very residential area where I could at least step down in the evening and go for a short walk close to my house, of course, with all the necessary precautions. But then I could see the plight of people, and the plight of animals. So I would go with loads of cookies or biscuits, and I would be distributing them to the either to the dogs, which is basically largely the stray dogs. Also, going and kind of, if there is any person who needs something, trying to solve their problems. So I kind of understood lives better in pandemic. That's something which happened with me. Then I moved from Bombay to Pune, which is much smaller city, and I've been living here ever since then during the pandemic. And here, it's a whole new world altogether, because here there is a lot of business guys who lost money during the pandemic. So dealing with them, understanding what is the situation, and a lot of them are going through this mental crisis, like they call, during pandemic, because they've lost money. That was again a new thing that taught me that the adversity brings the best opportunity as well. So the Happiness Factory, which we had started much before pandemic, we made it go online, and that also resulted in us uncovering new areas of business, because now we are online. So initially we were doing things largely for the Indian audience, but now we are doing it for the world. And we have had people from Serbia, Chile, Peru, Argentina, even for that matter, countries in Asia, like Singapore, who have come to us and wanting to do things with the Happiness Factory. Another thing which happened, the third best thing which happened, I started going out more into nature close by, because I couldn't go anywhere else. I couldn't travel much. So I would go down driving into nature, and I discovered this whole new world of organic farming. And from organic farming came this idea that, hey, you know what? Moringa and turmeric, which is called curcumin or curcuma in the other parts of the world, is the panacea to most of the illnesses, and preventive as well as curative, even in terms of diseases like cancer. So I started this business by building up a network of organic farmers from across the country. So yes, pandemic changed my life a lot, though I was going with the flow, and it's changed for the better. So I have like a new business model for an existing business and a new business altogether, and a much more happier me who is interacting a lot with nature and with people around him and animals around him as well.
All I can say is you're glowing with the flow. You're not just going with the flow, but you're literally glowing. And it's a joy to find people that are continuing to build communities, not just in one country, but across the globe, and are bringing people together. And
Sorry, if I may interrupt you, I just had to add one more thing. Yes, it's given me a new look. Like you see, this new hairstyle of mine. My hair was a little bit longer than yours, but this is a new hairstyle with a new beard, and I get this message: "Hey, we love this new look because you have this curly hair." And I said, "Okay, great. I'm going to keep it and commemorate the pandemic in a different way." So
yeah,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I had a bad haircut and I evened it out. So yeah, it's interesting because the conventional business model and the conventional CEO has to adhere to certain norms in society, you know. But you and I doing a combination of, as you rightly put it, what do you call it? Entertainment?
Entertainment, yeah, entertaining,
Entertainment, yeah. I
yeah.
call it leadership, personal leadership, and what do you call values-based or creative leadership. And essentially, it's finding who we really are. And at our heart, we're not just a business person, not just an engineer, not just a dancer. We really are human. And that means we may have various interests. But honestly, I do confuse people. And do you also feel that? Do people get confused? Like, make up your mind. Are you an engineer, or are you a business person, or are you an entertainer? Does that happen once in a while?
Yes, it's not just once in a while, it happens almost every day. In fact, whenever I meet HR people from companies, I tell them, don't ask me what I'm doing because you will be confused about your job. Okay. What what happens is people. I mean, of course, you don't blame them because each one has different upbringing and
Yeah.
influences, right? So they have this boxes, they have the silos that they tend to put people in. Okay. At the most, they can attribute you to two silos at a given time. Ideally one, but at the most two. Right. That's the positioning. That's the principle of positioning. Right. But when you have like some 5, 6 things going on at the same time, they feel that how does this guy get the time? Okay. And I believe that I'm the best time manager because I'm able to do 5, 6 things at the same time. Okay. And the irony is that for people like us, it's not about doing one thing. It is yes about doing one thing, but the things that we do on and in and around it, like whether it is music, dancing, exploring the forest, taking care of animals, all these things bring in certain kinds of qualities or properties in your behavior, they influence you, so that the one thing that you're doing gets a different flavor altogether. You tend to do things differently, right? Like imagine if the founders of Facebook had not met in the Burning Man, okay, and they were plain jacketed MBAs, Facebook wouldn't be Facebook, okay. Same thing with I think no, whether it is whether it is uh, I am
Jeff
Apple
Bezos of
or
Amazon,
yeah, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, or
Steve
the
Jobs of
company Apple,
Apple,
Steve
Google
Jobs of
founders.
Apple,
Yeah.
Google founders. So I think that it all depends on their personalities, and the personalities are shaped with the influences and the behavioral pattern or the upbringing. And the upbringing, by the way, when I say upbringing, it doesn't mean what your parents bring you up as. I have a lot of friends who, like me, come from middle class families, and they always had this excuse saying that, hey, you know what, we had to start work early and we had to provide enough money and get enough money so that we could say, and by the time we did that, we got married and we got stable, and now it's too late to start anything. I don't adhere to those dogmas of life. I believe that if you want to start something, you can start at any time. That's number one. Number two, even when you are making life or making money, uh, I think all those hurdles can be overcome. It's not like I have always had a great life that I have always traveled. In fact, when people see my Facebook pictures or Instagram pictures, they think that I have only traveled in life because I put all these pictures, right? So, and they think that I have had all the money in life to travel to so many places, without realizing that a lot of these travels have happened because of work, because of someone sponsoring me, because of some things happening, or when I make things happen. Like for example, I was traveling once to Germany for I was invited as a jury for a Bollywood dancing competition in Germany, where all the participants were German. There were some 15, 20 people, 15, 20 different groups. And then I sought that opportunity and I started doing dance workshops, Bollywood dance workshops in Germany. So they would pay for my travel, they would pay for my stay. And all that I had to do was to go to some other countries close by because I love traveling, right? So if you really want to do something or really want to achieve something, you will find a way out. And those ways will happen. Like they say, when you really want something very badly, the universe will conspire. So right now, I think I want to take my business globally, and a global person like Shankar has just dropped in my lap through some common connection. So you will connect to people, you will connect to opportunities which come only because you want them to come. So I strongly believe in that, and I hope everyone believes in that. And there is no, it's not a secret of life anymore. It is a fact that all of us have experienced, because today you are in that position or I am in this position because I wanted to be in this position, not because I had no other way and I just landed up here. So I think these are some things that you learn as you get more experience and more gray hair. So
Yeah, yeah. In fact, for the longest time, I kept my two or three domains separate. I was on one side the electronics biotech guy and like CEO or executive in electronics and biotechnology, which had a certain aura and a respect. And on the other hand, you were in the entertainment industry, so it was
yeah,
a little easier to blend in. I was never in the entertainment industry. I was always in the electronics biotech industry from a financial perspective. And the other side was neuroscience and happiness and dance and music. So I kept two separate profiles, one on Facebook and one on Facebook and Instagram was totally separate from my profile on LinkedIn and the technology profile. In fact, I used to even use different names. One was Shankar Hemadi, the other Rainbow Dancer, something like that. But the fallacy of it all is that at the end of the day, we are human and we have different desires and different needs in different domains. My daughter was the one who first, my daughter and my wife were my dance teachers early on. And then I got into it in a
nice.
big way. And we all dance together sometimes, and sometimes I do more of the therapeutic or healing dances. But there's so much we can learn from each other. So my question to you is, Yogesh, during these challenging times, have you been able to continue to help people to find their inner calling? Because I see so much suffering all around us. I see so many people lost, jobs are going away. There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of, I wish I had done something different, because now people are almost locked down in many places. Have you been able to help them understand, or have you been able to kind of be there for people when they need to see this kind of integration?
So it's interesting how a lot of things are in our backyard, but we tend to ignore them. So I have a few friends who are in their respective professions. I have this friend who is a lawyer, but who is an amazing interior designer. And then I have a friend who is working for a bank, but who is an amazing singer. And we were just chatting, and I'm like, but why can't you do what you love? And I think pandemic is the best time to do that, because most of us are at home or working from home. So yes, in a way we don't get the time, like we don't have official timings, we have Saturdays, Sundays, everything working. But on the other hand, we are working from home, so at least we have a place to start things which we always wanted to do. So while I was talking to them and inspiring them, and right now they are working towards it, I got this idea that Happiness Factory's like tagline is like, we believe in connecting communities through creativity. Okay? So why not extend this, and why not help uh, what I call as happypreneurs, which basically, if happiness is doing what you love, then you should be a happypreneur if you are an entrepreneur in doing what you love. Okay. Earlier, they used to call themselves as a passionpreneurs, but I think happiness is much more encompassing than passion can ever be. So I call them happypreneurs. So right now I am talking to a few people in order to make them realize their dreams, especially where they can combine their passion with the profession and become happypreneurs. So yes, right from giving them a brand name, designing a logo for them, and getting them an audience online is what we are working on currently. So yeah, I'm able to help on one hand these kind of people. On the second hand, I have never like looked at domestic issues. So right now I'm able to spend more time with my parents, though I'm living away. But whenever I go there, I actually am able to empathize with them and other senior citizens as well. And I try and do whatever I can to kind of, like, for example, I got my father Alexa because he was getting bored sitting at home. And now he and my mom, they've been married for 50 years, so don't get me mistaken. So they are very happy with each other, but you want something different to play with. So it is like they talk to Alexa, they get the music done, they watch a few movies on, I've got that Alexa with the screen. So they get to watch that. So it's a new thing for them, right? And it takes away the mental stress because they're not able to go out too much. And that way they are able to interact with a different world altogether. I'm teaching him how to buy things online, get onto the big basket or the grocery shops, and how to do this thing. So yes, so I think I'm able to give a lot of my time to things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't do because I had so-called less time, because most of my time was spent in traveling. And now that travel time and engagement time is saved, so I can do a lot more on, and of course, with myself also, I've been picking up speed with my drums training, and I've picked up ukulele, so I'm trying to strum it a bit better now.
Amazing, amazing how life changes and how we adapt to it. Yeah, I used to travel a lot, not as many as you countries as you, but mostly US, Western Europe, and Asia, particularly India, China, Japan. And
Yeah.
then it got all focused. I mean, I traveled around India for the last 2 years. Very, very amazing journey around 20 states. And during the pandemic, the first half of the pandemic, I traveled through Mexico until Corona came in front of me and then I had to stop. So now I'm no longer doing it as much, but I'm quite hopeful that within the next few months I'll be in Africa. But more importantly, I learned to cook because that was something I was avoiding for many years. I learned
Oh,
to,
that's something I need to tell you that I did learn to cook when I was in the US, but when I got back from the US, it's been now almost 20 years, I lost my hand at cooking because in India, labor is cheap, food is cheap, even if you order from outside. So that
yeah,
was my lifestyle. Or for that matter, I used to have a cook at home. And
yeah,
thanks to the pandemic, you couldn't get a cook at home. So now I've been cooking by myself. So I
exactly.
exactly know how to cook healthy food and like what are the ingredients going in it. So yeah,
We have so
that's
many
another.
parallels. It's amazing that we had to wait all these years to meet, which is amazing. And
Yeah, and we are
thanks to
yet to
this,
meet. We only met online. So
exactly. And thanks to Brahma, I call him the creator,
yeah,
Brahma Rao.
creator.
If you're
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there, thank you, Brahmaji. Thank you, Bahubao Dhanyavad, because he connected us. And he's also in the faculty at MICA, Mudra Institute of Communications in Ahmedabad. What's interesting is that the pandemic has changed our life in ways that we would never have imagined. Whether it's in my case learning to cook, learning Espanol because I was in Mexico for 3 months. I had to, and you speak very fluent Espanol. Thanks to your travel. ¿Cómo estás? Muy bien.
Está muy bien, está muy bien. Yeah.
So, and to be able to even meet people, do different things, have a different relationship with our own neighborhoods, our own families, such a gift. Do you have any words of wisdom for people who are still trying to figure out how they can change their life from that, you know, even I was straitjacketed for many years until I would say 2003. I was just hardcore engineering and business or engineering biotechnology, but very, very focused on science and technology. But then once I found my happy self, the dancing, they call me the dancing Buddha or the rainbow dancer. Once I found that, then I was able to juggle. But now it's integrated. So have you been able, is it possible for people who have
Yes.
multiple hobbies, multiple interests. And for example, there are people who do seva, there are people who do service, and they also have a thriving business, or they're executives in some company, different roles in different places. Is it possible to combine it all and offer something that's much more powerful? How should people approach that? What do you think?
So I recently read a book. It's a Japanese book called Ikigai, or it's a Japanese principle, wherein it's about finding the purpose in your life. Okay? But when you hear such words of wisdom as finding the purpose in your life, it becomes so difficult because you don't know. Like after a few years, or rather, once you grow too old to do much, or you can look back and say, "Hey, maybe that was my purpose in my life." But currently, when you are doing so many things, you are, of course, not sure about what is the purpose in your life. But you don't need to despair. The easiest way is to going back to basics. And I would advise a couple of things. One is go to a nature spot where you don't have your mobile or internet, at least for a week. In some places, there are places called as Vipassana where you are silent for 10 days, where you internalize yourself. And I would suggest don't think, don't try to think, don't try to focus on the thinking and a destination. I would rather say focus on yourself, what you are enjoying, what is enjoyment for you. Write it down, what you love to do. uh, and there will be many things that you love to do. Then write down what are the things that can become a profession. And when I say profession, it means actually making money, at least enough for you to survive. Okay. Once you have done these two blocks, the third block is write down all the people who can help you get closer to that. For example, let's say you have been in corporate life and you always wanted to become a teacher. You want to become a teacher, figure out what are the things that you can teach and what are the universities where you can teach, right? Then figure out amongst your friends list who are the people who can help you getting referred to a university or helping you teach somewhere and start something small. Once this thing is complete, all you have to do is actually jump into it, because the moment you meet one person, that person will connect you to 10 people, or rather more people, so that your network builds up, and the same energy you carry it online as well. So when you're clicking pictures, when you're putting them on Instagram, or you're writing something on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, wherever you're writing, you'll see that that energy is getting, or rather is driving you to talk and to appreciate and to criticize or whatever you want to do about those subjects which are there out there, right? Which you are, and that is the ecosystem which gets built around the thing that you want to do. And then you'll slowly realize that you will one fine day, maybe a lot of people who are lucky will do this thing parallelly to the job that you're doing, or someone will just quit, but quit your like corporate job and get into this, or get into what you love. But you'll nevertheless, whichever way you take it, you'll realize that one fine day, whether it is 1 year down the line or 5 years down the line, you have actually drifted from what you were just doing as a job to what you will be doing as a happypreneur, or as a person who wants to do what he or she wants to do. So that is the drift you have to take. These are the small baby steps. These are the small drops which make the sea. These are the raindrops which will get accumulated initially to be a stream, then a river, and then the sea, So you need to have that patience and perseverance to actually muster your energy and to drive yourself where you want. And but believe me, it's all very easy. You don't have to go with the big words that I'm speaking about. Just be with yourself, feel what you are happy about, and then connect the dots. And like Steve Jobs had rightly put, one fine day you'll look back and you'll be able to connect the dots.
Very true. In fact, when I took on hobbies, it was actually at the insistence of medical doctors and therapists and counselors who said you cannot just be working 18 hours a day. And what will you do with the money anyway? And what will you do with all the certificates of appreciation and this thing? Don't you want to have a life? And I'm like, what life? I'm enjoying working 18 hours a day. And then slowly I did exactly what you said. Surprisingly, you're right on the dot. I went for a 10-day Vipassana, complete silence, because Dr. Avi Herskovitz recommended that I try silence. And SN Goenka, interestingly, was in Silicon Valley, was in San Francisco. The only time he came to the Bay Area was in 2002. I ended up sitting in silence for 10 days. And those 10 days, I realized how much I yearned to move my body. My parents both were into dance in their own little ways. Yakshagana, Bailata in Karnataka, and my mother had learned some basic Bharatnatyam. But there was that need to move, which I didn't know until I sat down and I didn't move. And but that was just part of it, the poetry. And I know you have explored writing and sharing, story writing, sharing stories. And at that time, it was definitely a hobby, a way to find meaning. But over a period of time, they all blended together. And at places like Micah, we do explore that, where I teach creative leadership, or even at IIT Bombay, where I mentor blind students, people with visual impairment, on how to sing, how to dance, how to swim. These are brilliant people, absolutely bright people who came to places like IIT or Tata Institute, but they had to compromise along the way. They had to focus so much. And then when you teach them how to dance, and when you just allow them to flow, the joy is amazing. And I'm grateful you mentioned the whole process. You simplified it step by step. That you don't have to take like a great, huge risk. You can continue in the profession and step by
True.
step find your calling. And especially
True.
with the pandemic, there's at least a little more time. Instead of working 18 hours a day, maybe we drop it to 10 hours a day and use another 5, 6 hours to explore other things. So I'm so
True.
grateful that we connected. And again, thanks to Brahma. I call him
Yeah,
like
thank you.
he's Brahma, I'm Shankar, and you must be Vishnu then, right?
Actually, my name is that of Shankar. So, and I have this big tattoo of Shankar and
Wow.
Shiva, Shiva
That's
and
right.
Parvati.
That's right.
I actually wanted him in a dancing position, but
Yeah.
if he was dancing, he would have been dancing alone. So I thought that it's better he is with his paramour. So I put him along with Parvati. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, again, thanks a lot. We've explored many different things about how it's possible to integrate
yeah,
not just our profession, but also our life into
sure.
meaningful ways. And the pandemic actually provides opportunities. Even those of us who may not have, who have lost, financial resources and are struggling, instead of getting more anxious, why not use some of that time to find our calling? Why not use some of that time to sit silent and look at where we can find meaning? And do you
By
have
the
any
way,
other suggestions? Yeah.
yeah, by the way, I have a brand name that I associate myself with. I think people who are listening or looking should try that out. It's called Indieyogi, Indieyyogi, and the website is indieyogi.in. Why I'm talking about this is the whole idea of Indieyogi is my alter ego. It's my other self, which has the same things that I am with. It's actually a more than an alter ego, is a doppelganger. So but if you so it is all about travel, it is all about living the way you want to live, it's all about doing different things and assimilating them together, it's all about serving humanity. But if you look at the logo, there is this typical yogi from the Himalayas, and the only difference is he's upside down and his legs are spread to make a Y, and he's upside down and he's wearing this blue sunglasses. So he's contemporary, he's cool, but he's still uses the traditional ways of yoga or something to make life enriched and better. So, yeah,
Let's have a look
I
at your
think,
logo. Let's have a look at the website if you don't mind.
yeah,
Can we do
please go
that?
ahead. It is, yes. So you see that indie yogi, and you can see the Y in that is a upside down yogi who is wearing blue sunglasses, and he is having a red bandana, and he's not typically dressed in a dhoti. He is wearing his shorts, and his wide legs are wide apart like a Y, and yet he's doing the yoga pose. Because it's like having traditions at the back of your mind, but not being a totally traditional guy, ignoring the requirements of the new age or the new world, right? So you are using those traditions and you are trying to make the world a better place. So whether I'm doing yoga and improving things, whether I'm doing dancing and I'm improving things, teaching and improving things, and also in all aspects of life, like for example, I'm doing my business which is into moringa and turmeric. These are age old remedies that we had in our homes in South India, especially. Drumstick is an essential part of our sambar, and turmeric is an essential ingredient in almost all the dishes that we look at. And only now, people across the world have recognized turmeric as the only organic ingredient which cures any form of
Answer.
cancer. And moringa is preventive for cancer. Moringa is preventive for diabetes, controlling your sugar, controlling blood pressure, a lot of other ailments, especially regarding women, increasing your sperm count and becoming like a libido enhancer, which ginseng had taken the place for a long time. In fact, Fidel Castro from Cuba had his own moringa farm, and he was a big fan of moringa because he had colon cancer. So he was able to keep himself in check for the longest time because he consumed moringa every day, and he even recommended moringa to the Europeans, and he had a whole moringa farm in Cuba. In fact, Cuba now is one of the biggest consumers of moringa. So we have this strange way of connecting how traditions. We don't have to invent new molecules to cure new diseases. We have to look back into our traditions, look back into our ancient civilizations, because what we are going through now has already been gone through by them in a different way. It's just that we don't know what were the remedies. If we just look at that, we'll know what are the remedies. Okay, so Indie Yogi is that kind of a person who combines the ancient civilization with the modern civilization, and looks at tradition the same way he looks at the contemporary life. And it's not just about bringing solutions, it's about just living a happy life, combining the two.
Amazing, amazing. We could go on and on. And Yogesh, I mean, you truly are a indie yogi, and you brought together the East and the West. the arts and the sciences and the business aspects of it. And it's a joy to really get to know you in this process. And I'm sure we'll be doing work together in different ways. And anybody out there who is looking at how to combine, a life that is meaningful, work and life that is meaningful, please do get in touch. If you have stories to share, please tell us, and I would love to talk to you. We will be sharing all the contact information for Yogesh as well as for me, so that you can find us both on YouTube as well as any medium that we posted on. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or any other medium, LinkedIn. But please stay in touch. There's so much we can do together. And
Sure.
just because there's a corona in the midst of us doesn't mean we have to literally distance each other and run away from each other. There are many ways of connecting, and these are some of the ways. So thank
So
you again,
there is this fun statement that I make. Karuna means in Hindi it means don't do it. But on the contrary, I say that sab kuch karo during Corona means do everything during Corona. It's possible.
With
So
the
yeah,
Gandhi ashram, they came up with something similar. Corona se darona.
Corona se darona. Yeah, that's right.
Don't be afraid
That's
of
right.
a microbe. Of
Corona.
course, the microbe is doing its job of proliferating itself, but we have to continue, and we cannot just be paralyzed by that one
and
microbe.
and it is the issue which has happened in every century. Like I remember when we were growing up, when I was in my early 20s, it was all about HIV and AIDS, and every day we felt like, oh my, it's going to enter from the window and you're going to be HIV positive, right? But
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
survived that era. And then I know before that, I think it was influenza, it was plague, at least in
Malaria,
India, malaria, everything has
smallpox, polio.
smallpox, chickenpox, yeah, polio. It's everything has been conquered. Everything has had a life cycle. People have died. I'm not saying it's safe to just roam around without precautions. I'm not advising that. I'm just saying that we have to take it with a pinch of salt, except in our everyday life that these cycles will come and go, and not to get overtly paranoid. Yes, be precaution, be cautious, take your precautions, but don't unnecessarily get overly paranoid. Look at the different things that are benefiting from this. Look at how people are going back to nature, back to what they were earlier, rediscovering themselves. Look at the positives and flow with the tide, as Shankar rightly said. So I would strongly advise you to flow with the tide and be happy in life. Thank you very much, Shankar.
And
Thanks a
please
lot
stay in
for
touch.
having me
Thank
on.
you.
Yes,
Thank you for
definitely.
joining us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
if there's a need, we'll continue the discussion again. If you
Sure.
feel that there's enough interest, then we will again get back together and talk about it, talk about more different things.
Definitely, definitely.
See you soon then. Thank you.
See you. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.